Good morning. Denise Dryden here from Whitefish, Montana. And I'm a coach. I work with those who parent and those who are navigating through life. And this is the second part of a Generation Xer presentation that I did. I did Generation X last week, so if you haven't had a chance to watch it, go back and check that out if this brings up questions. But today we're going to talk about Generation Xers, and we're going to come at it from a metaphysical position. And so hi Kelly, so glad you're here. When we talk about metaphysical, it's multiple physical, like multidimensional, bigger perspectives. And that's really all it means. And it brings in ancient wisdoms, and it brings in astrology, it brings in vibration, it brings in everything. So we're going to talk about Generation Xers from that perspective. So last week when we were talking, we talked about Generation Xers being like 1965 to 1979, or early 60s to late 70s, which makes them about 55 if you go early 60s, 52 to 37, coming in at 1979. So this generation, as we identified last week, you know, they were the ones who implemented societal change. I'm having a hard time talking this morning. It's really interesting. Stumbling a little bit. Societal change. They were the ones who got on the buses and rode the buses through segregation and once the schools were desegregated, non-segregated. It's amazing. This is going to be an interesting morning. They were the ones who had parents who worked. Both parents who worked. They were the ones who raised themselves. They were the ones who were at home, the latchkey kids. They were the ones who kind of broke down a lot of the traditions that had been in existence from World War I all the way through to the mid to late 1960s. They were in childcare. They came from marriages that failed. They had split homes for the first time. They had the ability to make choices with their body, whether they wanted to have children or not, and when they wanted to have children. Now, the reason I'm talking about this generation is that they rattled everything, or the world rattled around them, and they had to learn to cope with it. And then they developed all of the tools that it takes to deepen and implement this into our societies. In other words, they're the ones who anchored everything in. There was a lot of changes that took place during the Civil Rights Movement, and these children of all of that vision were the ones who had to go through it and then anchor it in. So they have a really special talent and a really special gift. Now, when we talk about the Generation Xers over here, 1965 to 1979, we have another way of looking at them, which is the indigo energy. You know, you have the indigo girls and you have indigo, and their lyrics are always going to be very much about the metaphysical, the awareness of the bigger picture in the world. Indigo is a warrior energy, and it's like truth and justice, and like I'm here to break down traditions and foundations that no longer work. And about 1970, this huge induction of indigos started coming onto our planet. And, you know, being born into our planet is probably the best way to say it. And as they were raised, they took on, you know, what's truth, what's real, what's authentic. And they were super angry and super oppositional and super challenged and also amazing problem solvers. So this indigo / Generation Xer is this energy that brings about change and then implements and anchors it in, as I said. They're also the ones that were, as we talked about last week, neglected, overlooked, sort of that middle child syndrome. And what they have wanted to do their whole life is learn life balance. And so I brought a prop today, the lotus flower, which if you look at it, it has a long root that goes right straight down to the muck, the garbage at the bottom of the pond. And that sustains them. And then they come to the surface and they provide this beautiful bloom. And it's layers. It's like bloom, bloom, bloom. And that's what our Generation Xers know how to do. They know how to seek out balance. They know how to seek out change. They know how to say, this isn't working, what do I need to do? got a heart across the screen on that one. So they held the lines of generational pain. They're the ones who sort of turned around and said, from World War I to the Depression, through World War II, even way back linear, genetic linear lines, we have the pains of emotion, of anxiety and anger and doubt and fear. We have traumas of abuse and narcissism and the victim and, physical female abuse. I mean, just horrible lineage. And they also held the line of disease. So they've been seeking ways to heal and to shift and to let go of the old patterns. And when you look on Facebook and you sort of look at the softer, more energetic sites, they're always talking about patterns. How do we find a pattern, isolate it, and then lift it and let it go? And it was the Generation Xers that brought this in and started really working on it hard. They're also the parents of the millennials. So the millennials are this generation that was born between 1980 and 2000. So it's a 20-year, extremely large population, as we talked about. And the Generation Xers, as parents, were coming at it from generational pain. They were coming at it from change makers. They were coming at it from neglect. So they were sort of compensatory parents, as we talked about. They decided that the most important thing that they could do for their children was give them attention, support, recognition, change. Does that make sense? The millennials are called the trophy. Everything's about hovering parents, and that makes sense to me, because these Generation Xers were parenting from a perspective of, I'm learning who I am and I'm making changes, and I'm going to put all of my focus into this child that I have to make sure that they don't have to experience what I experienced. Now, the millennials are community builders at their core. They have been raised in pods, small groups, and there's information on my past videos. If you want to go back to, I think one of the very first ones I ever did was on millennials, and I continue to touch on it. So there's other pieces of information in the archives on YouTube. I think I'm at 35 videos now, so there's quite a bit there. So go back and check that out. They rely on each other. If you really want to understand the millennial mindset, watch New Girl. Watch how they can live together and support one another and grow together and challenge and take on the challenges in life together, and how they work through all of that. That's the millennial energy. So as the indigos were seeded or born into the Generation Xers, within the millennials, we have the crystal energy, which is a highly sensitive, sort of vibrational being that holds for love. Yes, more hearts going across that screen. Keep sending them the vibration of love. They couldn't come to this planet until we had the technology to digitally hold love and send it, like we're doing right now on this video with the hearts, through the world. So when the millennials and the crystals started showing up, or the crystals started showing up in the millennial generation, these crystals, they don't see color, they don't see gender, they don't see age, they don't see restrictions. What they only know how to relate to is the vibration of love. Now, keep in mind that this is a huge population that's been incorporated with the crystals. So the millennials were the change makers. They're the ones who came in with learning challenges and lower processing and artistic and creative and intuitive and sensitive. And they reacted to classrooms different. All of our IEPs, all of our education systems have been really shaken up because of the millennials that have come through. So family systems, corporations, education, they're all going, what do we do with these kids? They're soft. They gather together. You can't really motivate them until they find that inner motivation. And what are they all about? And as I said, they don't see limitations. They don't see walls. They just know how to gather together, come up with an idea that's usually unique and different, something that hasn't existed on this planet before, and then move it forward. So the prop I brought for the crystals, of course, is this wonderful crystal that my daughter brought back from me sent to me from Boise, which has lots of facets that shoot out in different directions, and it sparkles. And it's a fabulous sort of heavy, grounded. And one of the things that I'm beginning to discover is that the crystals within the millennial generation are really grounded of the earth. And their role is to hold love onto this earth. That's their role. That's what they're here for. So what, 37 and 37 to 17, that's who you are. That's what you're here for. And there's going to be crystals and indigos, of course, before all of that, because they were sort of seeded like I am. I'm a baby boomer who's had indigo energy since I was 3 years old. And I come with my sword. Anyone who knows me knows that. So, I got off task. So they're going to struggle. Our little guys are going to struggle in school. They're going to struggle in families. They're going to struggle anywhere where the old traditional values, especially, those sort of World War II, all great American values, are being impressed on them by somebody else, because they are different. They are multidimensional. They can expand and pulse only when they're seen, only when we know who they are. And these are beautiful people who are here to show us how to go through this change. So the role of the Generation Xer is to know that you played a significant role in breaking ground, in opening up, and bringing into fruition a generation that is here for love. Great visuals. I agree. Props are important, Kelly. So the Generation Xers, your goal is to grow and to balance and to open and to become curious about these kiddos. I'm going to say explore metaphysical arenas. Look into it. Become curious. Go find out what they're really talking about, and go find out why there's a little part of you inside that goes like, oh, that makes sense to me. That makes a lot of sense. And that's part of what I'm doing as a coach, is I'm introducing ancient wisdoms and sensitivity and multidimensional perspectives to parents who've never been trained in that, who don't understand it. Yet once I start to put some pieces on the paper with them, they know that that's who their child is. So allow yourself as a Generation Xer to go beyond the paradigms. This is the way traditional marriage was. This is the way traditional work was. This is the way that you work out to put your body in shape. All of this stuff, let go of it. Find out what works for you. And hold space. Hold space for the millennials, because they're here to show us what we need to do right now. And our entire focus is forward. And I use the term parenting forward. Find out why they're here, what they're here to teach us, and learn from them and grow from them. And then we know what we're supposed to do right now in this time of chaos. So I'm a coach. I work, as I said earlier, with those who parent. And I can do that individually or as a couple. But I'd love to chat with you if you have any questions. You can find all of these resources on DeniseDrydenCoaching.com. And have a great Sunday. Have a great week. And enjoy spring. Take care. Bye-bye.